I think I still remember that feeling of excitement I got on a sunny day of July in 2003 when I found out that Rob Halford was back in Judas Priest. And roughly a year and a half later, on the 23rd of February in 2005, when the band released their 15th studio album, Angel of Retribution, millions of fans around the globe, including myself of course, were out there by their local record stores to pick up their copy of the album. And whether you like it or not, I think everyone has to agree that Angel of Retribution became an essential part of the Judas Priest discography. And just as we do with every Judas Priest album out there on the day of its birthday, let's take a look at some of the lesser known facts about Angel of Retribution. Here you go. Let's start with the obvious. It was the first Judas Priest album to feature Rob Halford back as the lead singer of the band since his departure in 1992. Since Rob's departure is not really a topic of this particular episode, I'm not going to spend much time on it or on the importance of Rob Halford being in the band. I think that every true Judas Priest fan can agree that Judas Priest without Rob Halford isn't really complete. One thing that is worth pointing out though is that in his latest book, Confess, which believe me, I'm gonna cite quite a lot in this series, Rob Halford actually remembers the letter he sent to the band's manager back then, and in summary it went something like this: I wanted to be back in Priest more than I could possibly begin to explain. Could we try again? And of course he hasn't heard back from them for several weeks, only to pick up the phone on one day and hear Bill Kirbishley's voice, a voice he hasn't heard for over a decade, saying, "Hello Rob, I think we should try to work something out." The rest is of course history. History you most likely know much better than me, and thus I'm not going to go into the details of it. Yet one thing is important to underline though. The word retribution in the album's title actually refers to the band resurrecting from the ashes and picking up where they left off after Painkiller with the same lineup. Yet the band didn't stop teaching their old and new fans their own history and underline the importance of this lineup with a simple reference in the album's title. Judas Priest actually went much further than that. Almost every song on Angel of Retribution features in one way or another and references the band's earlier material. You don't even have to pay close attention to the lyrics of Deal with the Devil. It is clear that the band is actually telling the history of Judas Priest in it. It references the Black Country, where the band is originally from, which was forced under blood red skies, which is of course a song from Ram It Down album. And there are of course a lot of other references in almost every song on the album. For example, the song Demonizer actually references the legendary intro to Screaming for Vengeance, the Hellion, and announces Painkiller's return from the album Painkiller, of course. Hellrider also uses the phrase "ram it down" and references Tyrant. Eulogy references Stained Class, the album we spoke about in the previous episode. By the way, if you haven't yet, make sure you check it out. And The Sentinel from the legendary Defenders of the Faith, my personal favorite album of Judas Priest. And in fact, a song worth fighting for is actually considered to be a sequel to Desert Plains. There is also a very important reference to the album set Wings of Destiny, both in the songs and somewhere else in the album, of which I am going to speak very soon. And in such way, Judas Priest actually conducted one of the greatest marketing campaigns they did, at least in the 21st century.
Shut up and take my money!
K.K. Downing, in his latest book, Heavy Duty, Days and Nights in Judas Priest, actually says that this album, Angel of Retribution, together with Iron Maiden's Brave New World, made a new generation of fans pick up their guitars and be excited about rock and roll and heavy metal once again. And therefore, introducing those new wave of fans to the band's oldest material and actually making them dig through the discography and purchase the albums that were released 25 plus years ago was a genius, a brilliant idea. Remember how I said just a moment before that there is an important connection and reference to the album set Wings of Destiny? Well, here you go. In addition to a simple reference to the song Tyrant from that album on Hellrider, Rob Halford actually considered Angel of Retribution to be a follow-up to said Wings of Destiny. not musically, but theme-wise.
What?
Remember how on the iconic 1976 album's artwork, of which by the way we are going to talk about sometime in March, there is an angel, a sad one. That angel is not in control of his own fate. On that album artwork, he is the victim of changes. Well, it is supposed to be exactly the same angel who is depicted on Angel of Retribution, yet this time he is covered in full metal gear, rising to the skies, taking back control of his own fate and screaming to the entire world that priests are back. It features the longest Judas Priest song ever written, up until 2021 at least. And that song also happens to be the most controversial one on the album. Lochness is a 13+ minute long piece which stirred huge debate among the critics and the fans. Some critics absolutely hated it, saying that it was a terrible ending for a perfect album. Some other ones, on the other hand, thought that it was a masterpiece, a very, very underrated one. One thing is true, it is performed in a slightly different musical style, different from the entire album. Yet it is Lochness that opened the musical gates to the follow-up to Angel of Retribution, Nostradamus. And before we actually go to the next point and the next fact, I would like to encourage you to write in the comments of what you think about Lochness. This song is indeed a very controversial one, and I'm very curious to see and hear what Judas Priest fans actually think about it. The band released only one single prior to this album, and it was the song Revolution. And some fans immediately found its intro very similar to Jane's Addiction Mountain Song. Yet, an interesting fact about Revolution is that that bass intro was actually recorded by Judas Priest in mid-70s. The band actually found an old tape and decided to build an entire song around it. And they did it amazingly well. The band said in multiple interviews that Angel of Retribution is what the band would have sounded after Painkiller had they not disbanded in 1992. Yet musically, they refer much closer to the sound of the mid-80s, Screaming for Vengeance and Defenders of the Faith. On this album, they've invited once again the legendary Don Airey of then already Deep Purple to perform keyboards for this record. They did exactly the same thing for Painkiller though, yet they removed most of the Don Airey's parts for the album to sound much heavier. Yet on this album, on Angel of Retribution, the band did not intend to sound as heavy as they could, unlike they did on Painkiller. The band intended to sound classic, and this is exactly what Judas Priest has done. I'll be honest with you, I cannot be exactly fair and impartial when it comes to speaking about Angel of Retribution. I love this album. I always had and I always will, I think. The album means so much to me, with Rob Halford being back in the band, that I cannot even actually explain it. That album actually makes it to top 5 of Judas Priest albums for me, and that actually says a lot. By the way, maybe I should rank all Judas Priest albums and make a video out of it? Let me know in the comments. And therefore, I would really like to think what you think of Angel of Retribution. When was the first time you heard it and what you thought of it? What is your favorite song? Let me know in the comments. I'm actually very curious about it. And don't forget that we will be doing this about every Judas Priest album on a day of its birthday. By the way, can you guess which is the next one? Either way, please support the effort of uncovering some of the hidden parts of the Judas Priest discography by liking, commenting, sharing this video, and of course don't forget to subscribe to the Metal Pilgrim channel on YouTube and join our communities on Instagram, Facebook, or any other social media you actually hang out at for more exclusive rock and metal content. Keep rocking!